that box I told you about with I unpacked everything and put the bubble wrap stickers here. And yeah, that's going last, so I don't care if we get to it. What? Yes, we got square. All right. So,
guys, shut the file.
So I did a talk on boundaries in the family-friendly event. So I'm not going to do boundaries per se again. I'll do a quick review of it, but mostly as a precursor to part 1 of 2 of Nerds. Here's how you get dates. Quick survey. Is anyone here, put your hand up if you would like to have had more dates in the last year than you had. I know the rest of you are lying. All right. So, again, because I deal with guys like the guy from Brazil, so he wasn't actively trying to be a dickhead. He wasn't actively trying to cross boundaries. He wasn't actively trying to be evil and manipulative. He was being manipulative in that someone who's trained to do the JADE thing, justify, argue, defend, and explain, has been trained to cross boundaries, release more information than is really necessary, sort of get up in your grill emotionally and require you to forgive them if you're not the one abusing them. Somebody who's been trained to do that let argue, defend, explain thing, interacting with someone else, gets emotionally pushy and is clearly in distress and clearly wants you to let them explain and then have you forgive them. That's manipulative. But he wasn't doing it out of a sense, he wasn't doing it because he was a dickhead who was manipulating me. He was doing it because he was pretty clearly a trauma survivor who had latched onto a method of getting through his shit that, he survived the trauma that he went through, whatever it was, whether it was an abusive person or just a terrible situation in his life. So it's not that the technique that he learned to survive was bad, because it worked for him. He got through it, he didn't kill himself, he didn't murder 8 people and go to jail forever. He got through the situation. But in social interaction, his behavior was not functional. What I mean by that is the things he did not get him closer to the things he wanted, right? So if you're standing on one side of a field and you want to get to the other side of a field, the functional choice is walk in a straight line till you get to the other side of the field. It would be physically dysfunctional if someone cuts your leg off. You can't function as well getting to the other side of the field, right? Emotionally speaking, trauma can sort of make us dysfunctional in our heads, so our behaviors socially are dysfunctional. We aren't good at interacting socially because we've been trained into certain behaviors that make other people uncomfortable unless they are abusers themselves, unless sometimes they're also trauma survivors who find that means of communication comfortable, or if they've been to a shitload of therapy and can respond to it with, no, the conversation's over, this is fine. So, the reason I mention this is that, like I said, nerds behave in ways that the proportion of the nerd population that has some dysfunctional social behaviors is higher than the rest of the population. So, quick thing about boundaries. There is a line between you and everyone else. Okay? Everyone remember Evangelion, the AT fields, right? That was a metaphor, really hard one to grasp, but basically to penetrate the AT field was to kill the angel, right? The AT field can sort of stand in for your boundary. If something gets past it, you can let stuff get past it if you trust someone. But if someone goes past the boundary without your inviting it, that's an attack, okay? So on one side of your boundary is your emotions and your behaviors. If you feel sad, that's your emotion, that's not someone else's emotion. You may feel sad about something that's happened. Pet dies, someone calls you a name, you lose a bid for a giant robot that you wanted to masturbate onto. Yeah. So circumstances can give you certain emotions, right? So then you feel sad. That emotion is yours, and it's up to you to decide how you want to respond to it. So if you lose the bid, let's say, on the giant robot you want to masturbate onto, you can just sort of sit there and be like, God, I want to jack off onto it, but I don't have it. I don't want to jack off onto the other figures because they're like, it's like a melted candle. It's just, I wanted something fresh to masturbate. My life is suck. And just, nobody loves me. And that's why I have to masturbate onto these robots. Everything sucks. And then you just sort of spiral into a bad mood. Many people do have that sort of reaction to a bad day or a certain bad thing happening. You have the power to, and this is what many trauma survivors have a problem with, once you have an emotion, if you're aware of it, which can be a skill that you can build up, once you're aware of an emotion, you can choose how you're going to respond to it. For example, I lost that bid and I really wanted to masturbate onto that giant robot. But you know, I was willing to bid 90 bucks. I bet if I take 90 bucks to the merchant room, I'll find a giant robot figure I can masturbate onto. Right? And then I can make like a giant robot figure into a giant, just a horrifying, like, I'll eventually die and someone will find this like 8-inch by 12-inch melted candle of cum on a robot, and everyone will know what I did every night for decades. And I can run my life how I like, right? And so that's another response you could have, right? Once you're aware of the emotion you're having, you can choose what your actions are in response to that emotion. That's the boundary. Other people's emotions, if someone else is sad, you can give them an ice cream. That doesn't make them happy. That makes them someone with an ice cream cone. Now, you can affect someone's circumstance. You can slap them, you can show them a picture of a sad puppy, you can give them ice cream, you can tell them they look good today, right? You can affect someone's circumstance. You have that power. But you can't make someone feel good or feel bad. You aren't in control of other people's emotional state. So when someone comes to you and says, I'm sad, cheer me up, that can be an invitation to, I want a hug, and can we discuss my bad day, and once I get it off my chest, I'll feel better. And you don't have to do that, but if, maybe if you're in a relationship, you're like, yeah, I want to help you feel better. So, but if someone comes up and says, I'm sad, it's your responsibility to make me feel better, or I'm sad, what are you going to do about it? That's not okay. Because you're not in charge of their emotions, you're in charge of yours, but you can't do shit for them. You give them the ice cream, and they decide whether that makes them happy. Similarly, if someone does something, anything, and then turns to you and says, look what you made me do, red flag, end relationship, get the fuck out, you're not in charge of other people's behaviors, okay? If someone does something, now, they may say something like, I failed my final exam and it's your fault. What the fuck do you mean? Well, you were up until 3 a.m. having sex with your 300-pound girlfriend who sounds like a chihuahua being stepped on. Which, by the way, is a story from personal experience. I was the one whose roommate did that. Who fucked the 300-pound girlfriend who sounded like stepped on a chihuahua? I did not. But I failed the exam, it's your fault. No. You were a shitty roommate, and we have to have a discussion about what's appropriate roommate behavior on a Wednesday night, i.e., buy a ball gag. I don't care, just put her face down and have her bite the pillow. Like, I don't care. I don't want to, I had to take the subwoofer, stick it under my bed, turn it up to 11, and play Vivaldi's Four Seasons before I could get to bed. Jesus Christ. It was not. Anyways, I couldn't tell him, don't fuck your girlfriend, because I wasn't in charge of his behavior. I could tell him, look, I'm going to ask the guys to kick you out if I have to listen to you fuck your girlfriend again. At 3 a.m. anyways, right? That was, there was a relationship of roommates in there, there was room for negotiation. But it wasn't his fault that, like, I had a bad day the next day. I mean, okay, he set up circumstances that really did not help my day. But my behaviors, if I had slapped someone because I was in a bad mood, that wasn't his fault. That was my behavior, that was my action, that was my fault. It doesn't matter that he kept me up till 3 a.m. fucking his salted ham smelling girlfriend. It was his fault that he kept me up, but it wasn't his fault how I responded to being tired the next day, right? So if someone smacks you and says, look what you made me do, they are a dickhead, get out, okay? So that's boundaries. You're in charge of your emotions and your behaviors, someone else is in charge of their emotions and their behaviors. There are also physical boundaries. May I touch you on the shoulder for this demonstration?
Go ahead.
Okay, I just got consent to do this. If I hadn't done that, I mean, that is not particularly boundary cross. That's not a huge boundary to cross. We've known each other for years.
Yep.
There is an implied, yeah, whatever, right? Just, if you're gonna slap me on the ass, make sure you leave a handprint, right? But that's because there's an established relationship, right? Here's the part 1 of dating advice. Physical, sexual, and social boundaries exist and cannot just be walked up to and then stepped over. So, if you see guys, or ladies who like ladies, if you see a cute cosplaying girl, there are social expectations of the level of interaction you can start off with, okay? And her response will be a signal of how comfortable she is with that interaction and whether she invites more of it. So, if you walk up to a cosplayer and you say, dude, your costume is so sick, I especially like your earrings, where did you get your wig? That is, that's you can't do that to a businesswoman downtown Calgary on a Wednesday, right? Because their response is, I'm not cosplaying, this is not a wig, who the fuck are you, what are you doing? Right? But in the context of a con, where we understand what cosplay is and the amount of work that goes into it, and that people are allowed to compliment cosplayers, not touch them, no. But being like, dude, your cosplay is so good, where did you get your wig? Oh, I love your earrings. That's an appropriate compliment in this context, right? If you're at the bar, you walk up to someone, and it's a bar is a social gathering, you'd be like, hi, my name's Tyler. I like your earrings, can I buy you a drink? That's way more familiar than you would be in lineup, but in a bar, that's probably the hardest you want to go for a first step. And then she will respond. And her response tells you what you can do, what she will permit next. So, if the cosplayer's response is, oh, thanks, I got it at that place over there, and then turns away, that is clear body language that she's not interested in further conversation. If your response to that communicated boundary, that physically communicated, I'm not interested in this discussion, is to pursue the discussion, what you have done is cross a boundary. What that does is it makes her uncomfortable. What that does is it guarantees you're not getting laid. Okay, that's the short version. What it means is you have signaled to that person that you are unwilling to respect their boundaries. Which means they know that if they continue in conversation, if they go on a date, if they get in bed with you, if they say stop, they know that you don't respect their saying stop. That is why conversations will end dead when someone is inappropriate in conversation. It's not because you smell like, I mean it is because you smell like cheese, but it's not because saying the wrong thing just instantly destroys everything in your blah, you've proven yourself to be a terrible person. All you've proven by disrespecting a communicated boundary is that you don't respect boundaries. You don't respect that she said, whether verbally, like, I'm sorry I have to go, or thanks and then turning away, She has communicated, I'm not interested in this conversation. If you disrespect that boundary, she doesn't know that you respect any other boundaries. That's why nerds don't get laid. Because a lot of nerds don't get the whole social boundary thing. They don't understand, and like, to be honest, a lot of you, us, have not had the opportunity to learn, and certainly have not been taught, and may have been taught not to respect boundaries. A lot of anime tells stories about how not respecting boundaries results in true love. I'm not interested. I'm not interested. Get away from me, you pervert. Bang! Get away from me, you pervert. Bang! 20 episodes later, they're fucking. Ladies, put your hands up if that works in real life. I didn't think so.
Very much.
I mean, unless the boom was like deeply sexual and consensual. In which case, go hard. But so yeah, that's the end of part 1 of 2. I'll be doing some more like.
I know I'll never be the same. Shook my world so hard again. Wish I washed away my sin.